Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Elite Coaching Blueprint podcast. On today's episode, we have an amazing guest called Lewis Potts. Now, Lewis is the creator, the founder of the Adherence Amplifier, and in a nutshell, what he does is helps you to run a better coaching program and to get your clients to be more adherent. It was a really enjoyable conversation myself and Lewis had on this episode of the podcast. There's a lot of good takeaways, and this is an area that I've always found fascinating myself. It's an area that I feel in the past has been kind of an area of strength of mine. So I think you're getting a really good combination of two different points of view on this. Not even points of view. A lot of this is stuff that we agreed upon. So we're going to go over how to get your clients to be more adherent, what you and your clients need to be doing to be more adherent and get better results out of them. We go over my secret pizza recipe at some point during this podcast, as well as we go over stuff like AI, just in general, growing your coaching business. And Lewis is going to come away with a few amazing takeaways in terms of what you can do today to increase your adherence and get better results with your clients. So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Lewis, why do so many coaches struggle to get their clients to be adherent, even though they have coaching skills, coaching qualifications, PT qualifications? A lot of coaches struggle with that. What's happening? Why do you think it occurs?
Straight in with the big questions as well. We're not fucking about. Okay, so I kind of need to give a little bit of context around this, and this is also the topic where I seem to not intentionally but piss a lot of coaches off because I don't actually think many coaches have any coaching skills, and I also don't think many coaches have any coaching qualifications. A level 2 is not a coaching qualification, and a level 3 is not a coaching qualification unless you've been somewhere like the ICF, the IAP, CNM, CIPD, coaching governing bodies, and got a qualification in coaching. Then by default, technically, you haven't got a coaching qualification. So I want to get that out there. Obviously, I figured we'll just rip that plaster off straight away.
Go for it, yeah.
It's one of those things like people. There's a big misconception. There's a big confusion around the word coach as a noun and coach as a verb. So a sports coach doesn't actually do much coaching. Coaching, the verb, came from the corporate world. It's a leadership style. It's a management style. It's essentially asking people questions to empower them to think and act for themselves. That's what coaching is. So if you think of a lot of high-level sports coaches, maybe even bodybuilding coaches, are they doing much coaching, or are they instructing? Are they mentoring? Which is a model that I like to use is the 4 hats that a good coach should wear. The first is an instructor. So write people plans, say to people, if you follow this set of instructions, you will get this result. That's great. Everybody needs to do that. Absolutely. Especially if you're working with beginners, Gen Pop, you need to do that. The second hat is the advisor. So in my opinion, I think you should do this. This is what I think. This is what I advise that you should do. The third hat is the mentor. Not everybody can wear this hat because mentors, by definition, are this is what worked for me. So here's what worked for me. Here's what I think you should do. And that's why the term mentor is one of the ones that's been bastardized the most. But wait, we're all right to swear. We're good to swear.
Yeah, you can swear. Swear as much as you
want. I'm just checking. I'm like, it's bastardized the most because there's a lot of mentors out there at the minute that are now teaching things that they never actually managed to get work for themselves. They're staying ahead of trends and that side of things, right? And then the fourth hat is actually the coach, which again, by definition, is just ask good questions. And I think that a lot of coaches, as we know them, are great at the instruction part, the nutrition knowledge, the training knowledge, the lifestyle, habits, steps, sleep, that side of things. The thing that is more science-based. There is a black and white, do this. If you do this, you will get this. If you follow X, you will get Y. I think there are a lot of people that are great at giving advice. Here's what I think you should do. But we both know with what we do now, particularly working with coaches, there's a massive difference in what's optimum and what's right for the person and what they can actually stick to. So I mean, I've kind of moved away from the question already, but I think actually the thing that people lack, that coaches lack, is the coaching element of it by definition.
I think that's a very good definition, because it's very much what I've also preached in terms of how I've worked with clients in the past. Is there is the technical knowledge, which is, I know how to set up a training program. I know how to set up your nutrition. I know how to give you the advice that, a book or a website could give you. But actually, like you've said there, there's a very big difference between actually coaching people and, the information. Information's so, nowadays of ChatGPT and everything, information's more available than it's ever been before. It's condensed into a usable form for you. So the coaching is the real magic step. And I think that's where, for me, I've always seen issues with people's adherence. And the thing that actually needs fixing is, like we kind of said before, was those soft skills. It's how do you communicate with people? How do you get people to understand your point of view? How do you get people to not just understand what you're saying, but internalize the concept and go, oh, I get it, rather than like, I just understand the words. And more than that, it's like, how do you actually get people to follow through and stick to the plan rather than just going, cool, here's the training program, here's the nutrition program. I struggled again. Oh, I'm stuck. Because I think that's where a lot of coaches stay stuck is week on week. They go through their check-in process or however they catch up with their clients. And it is week on week the same bit of advice given over and over and over and over and over again. And that client clearly isn't grasping things. So there is a disconnect there between the information and what you want someone to do, and those two worlds aren't marrying up. So I suppose a great question from there would be, from your perspective, I mean, you're running the Adherence Amplifier, which is all about this and how to get people to follow the plan and, actually get people to do stuff. And you talk a bit about like the identity shift side of things and how that all works together. What's going on from a coach's point of view and from a client's point of view? Where does that disconnect happen? Why is someone getting a plan which is very accurate and clear and maybe like the most scientifically backed plan in the world, but they're not following through? There's a disconnect there. Why is that happening?
I think so. There's two things that I want to go into. I want to go into the difference between coaches and their clients, and
Mhm.
then I also want to talk about the like you've just said. It's like why are people not doing what we're telling them to? And ultimately, it comes down to ownership, and we will come on to that because I can talk for a while about that. But the first thing that I found, and I guess one of the reasons why I was so successful as a coach is that I did know what. So I got into coaching. I was 130 kilograms. I got
Yeah.
into, but I'd never even considered it. I'd never been in shape. I got into coaching. I fell into it by necessity, really, where a friend of mine at the time was running a coaching business. He needed somebody to do the admin side of things. I was DJing and working in hospitality, so I had my days free. So I was like, fuck it, I'll get paid 500 quid cash to essentially do all the behind the scenes stuff. In that um in that kind of like time, I was sat and I was listening to the conversations and the feedback, and what I at first thought coaching was, which is what most people think coaching is, I'd figured out how to set a plan pretty quickly, even though I'd never actually done it. It was very much a follow these things, you'll get this result, like we've said. um so but because I was going through that journey myself, I'd went from 150 kilos at my heaviest down to 80 at my lightest. I did get it. I did see what people were struggling with, and I think something that a lot of coaches struggle with. And there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. Like I'm not for sure not saying that you have to have been out of shape and then got in shape to be a coach, but I do think that you miss that relatability, that real relatability aspect of it, and that real, oh shit, I actually know what this is like, not
Mm.
what my clients have told me this is like. So I think we as coaches, most coaches for the most part, are really highly intrinsically motivated. And that's something else that we can talk about, the actual research behind motivation as well. A lot of coaches be like, I'm not motivated, I'm disciplined. I'm like, no, by default, you are motivated because you value the outcome. Like that,
Mm.
that's one of the four main factors of intrinsic motivation. And I think people just struggle to connect to that side of their clients. I don't mean to clients in general. I mean, we as coaches, highly intrinsically motivated, working with people that aren't, for at least for the thing that we're working for. And that's where a lot of it gets lost in translation. I agree that I do think that most coaches, maybe unless you're peaking people for a photo shoot, or unless you are working with like elite level athletes, I do think for most coaches, a rudimentary level of knowledge around training and nutrition is enough, at least to get gem pop clients. It's the it's Pareto's law, right? Is
Yeah.
80%.
80/20.
Yeah, 80% of your results will come from 20% of the input. So 20% of the knowledge will get you 80% of the way there. And for most people, that's okay. But it's the people that fall outside of that. And most coaches have got enough nutrition and training knowledge, and we know that by the default, by the fact that they've got at least one result.
Yeah.
So if they've got one result with people, you probably know, and maybe not everything you need to know, but enough about training and nutrition. The secret, the key to unlocking all of this is, well, how do we get more people to actually apply the thing that we're talking about? And that takes us on to this ownership. The second point is the ownership side of things. Is every coach listening to this now, take yourself back to when you were a kid and you were being told what to do. Did you follow that 100% of the time? Were you told what to do and you went, okay, and you were like programmed like a little robot and you just went away and got on with it and came back and was like, cool, what's next? No, of course you fucking didn't. You only actually did the things that you, A, were fully bought into, or B, were able to take ownership of. I think this is a good idea. So I'm gonna do this. And this comes right down to the basics of human behavior, is that you can tell somebody to do whatever you want them to do until you're blue in the face. But until it actually clicks in their head, maybe they'll do it once, maybe they'll do it twice, but until they can really take ownership of that behavior, that action, that decision, that thought, that feeling, it's not going to be I mean, that's step one to making it a long, consistent change rather than just a fleeting thing.
No, I agree. I think with what you said there, one of the key parts of that is this kind of the ability to get results. Again, it doesn't come down to the knowledge. And I can speak very strongly firsthand to this with I did a master's degree in sports nutrition. So knowledge base around like nutrition alone, very, quite in-depth stuff. I would say that's probably the biggest waste of money I've ever spent on my life in anything, like tens of £1,000s in student debt. And the reality is that what I learned off the back of that, it really does come down to, like, if we simplify it, of course, there'll be people listening to this who have like very specific, niches and client bases. But for the majority of people, again, Pareto principle, the majority of people, like 90% of it comes down to calories, protein, and that's pretty much it. Like, it's pretty much it. To lose weight, gain weight, it does come down to those factors. So knowing that and kind of seeing where, we apply this, and of course there's context outside of that where it is less or more likely to get someone a result, but knowing that it is really simple information. We all know as coaches, calorie deficit, lose weight, like it's not more complex than that. What's stopping someone getting a result? And I think what often happens is because we don't, as coaches, we get into the industry because we're motivated by training. We enjoy it. We enjoy the process. You enjoy going to the gym. For one person, they step into the gym, they lift heavy weights, it challenges them, they get this pump, they feel a bit uncomfortable. They're like, oh God, it's fucking great. I love this. Someone else, the second they feel any uncomfort or discomfort, they hate it and they don't want to be there. And you've got these two really different kind of differing mindsets. And almost every single coach, I think, comes into the industry because they like training, they like exercise, or they don't mind dieting. I don't think anyone loves dieting, but they don't mind dieting. They don't mind the results they get off of it, and that keeps them going. But often what happens is they forget, again, that kind of motivation which other people are driven by, or the factors that other people are experiencing, where you have a client come in and they're labeled as a problem client, but they're not really a problem client. They're just a client who hasn't been able to follow the plan. And I think coaches get very frustrated by this. They go, oh God, these clients, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. But the reality is that person came to you, they hired you because of that fact itself. They are struggling to do this on their own, and they've come to you for the help. And often what happens, I think a lot of coaches' main port of call, or their approach is, well, I'm just going to tell them to do the stuff. That's what most coaching really is just, well, you'll get a plan, you'll get nutrition, you'll get a check-in once a week. And in that process, it's just like, do this, do this, do this. But where anyone doesn't follow the plan or struggles to follow the plan, they're kind of stuck and they're like, why is this client not doing it? Like, what's wrong with them? Like, what's going on? And I think that ownership comes around to that whole point there, is that, as a coach, I'm deeply, deeply in the belief that you should take ownership for every single one of your client results. That doesn't mean that you don't have nightmare clients. We've all had a nightmare client who just ignores everything. They are actively fighting you in the result. But the majority of clients, the majority of the clients who you maybe would, or most people would label as a problem client, aren't actually problem clients. You just don't have the skill set. You're trying to, attack everything with a hammer, and you need a really specific skill for this client. And a lot of it comes down to, your ability to empathize with someone, or ask those tough questions, or dig deeper than just like, why aren't you doing this? Like, okay, let's calorie bank this week. Okay, but why are we doing this? What's the motivation behind it? What's the reason someone struggles? Why does this person, every time they get to the weekend, overeat every single weekend, despite the fact that you've given them all the steps, the calorie bank and the plan, the nutrition, the let's swap your breakfast out for this thing and get more protein in at lunchtime? They still struggle. And it's
Yeah.
down to the ownership from the coach's point of view to actually give them the skills and the tools to do so, ask the right questions to, dig deeper on one side of things. But it's also that there is the ownership of the client, actually teaching them that side of things. And I think
Absolutely.
that
I
ownership
think
comes down to those skills. What do you feel is the barrier that's stopping coaches being able to take that ownership or give it to their clients? Like where's that being lost in translation?
I think just sorry, I nearly butted in there.
Yeah, no, go for
This,
it.
this whole idea of like problem clients is I'm big on reframing things, right? I feel like there's enough when you are self-employed, when you're a business owner and a coach, and you've got to wear the marketing hat and the fucking lead generation hat and the sales. You've got to do a lot of
Yeah.
things, right? Why make it feel worse by letting yourself sit in the negativity of a lot of things? And this idea of like a problem client, I say to some of the coaches inside to the coaches inside the Amplifier, be thankful for that, because if it was just about writing a plan and giving it to somebody, you would be competing with everybody that calls themselves an online coach.
AI can do this as well now. Like it's like in
Literally.
seconds, literally
Yeah.
seconds. I did one for
Yeah.
jujitsu the other day and training, and it churned out something. I was like, that's pretty fucking good. I was like, shit, that's not bad.
Mate, it's not just the AI. It's like the big influencers that I've got a bigger marketing budget and
Mhm.
can run things at cost just to take over the market and stuff like that. Like my wife, a little bit of a tangent here. She's working with a coach now, but she was previously a coach herself. She now specializes in content. She basically for the last year before she started working with her coach Sarah, now she was in this position where she was like, well, I don't need coaching, I just need a bit of a plan. I'm bored of my training, I want a progressive plan, I'd like a little bit of guidance and stuff like that. And she signed up to I don't know what the app is called, but she signed up to Chrissy Chella's app thing, like the Honor Active
Oh yeah.
owner. And she signed into this app and it cost her like 60 quid for the year, I think, something like that. And I was like, just let me have a look at that. Obviously, what I do, I'm like fucking about on this app, and I'm like, oh my God, coaches do need to worry.
Mm.
Like, if your thing is, I want to write you a plan, well, it took her 10 minutes to feed the details into this plan of things that she could do, couldn't do, injuries, equipment availability, how many days a week she wants to train. Bang, training plan. There you go. Pretty much instantaneous. And like adjustments later on down the line, done. Like, is it AI plugged into the back of that? Well, probably because of the speed that it was being done. But it's not just that. Inside this app, the community is wild. There's people organizing meetups every weekend in every city, and I'm like, if you are annoyed at those problem clients and you just want to be able to write plans and get people to stick to them, you're fighting a losing battle.
Well, that's not coaching either. Like
Correct. Yeah.
that the coaching is, oh, this person's struggling, I'm going to help you overcome it. And
Yeah.
people are going, oh, you're struggling, that's your fault. That's I'm not taking any part in it. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what coaching is. And I think there's that disconnect now that people think they can set up a Instagram account, post some like 5 hacks to grow your biceps, churn a load of money in, and just be like, yeah, easy, I'll live on a beach and be sipping mojitos while I'm doing my check-ins kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not that. It's the coaching actually happens when the problems start. That's when coaching comes in. That's what
100%.
your job is. And I think that's where the disconnect is happening.
Yeah, so I mean, circling back around to the question, I think it was something along the lines of like coaches struggling to take the ownership side of things.
Mm.
The easiest way I can kind of explain it is most of what people think coaching is the stuff that we've just covered, right? Is there's a science to it. It's like we said, there's a science to it. Coaching for me is very much an art, and I know that sounds a little bit like out there, but the art of actually coaching, the ability to take somebody from a problem to a solution simply by asking questions, not what question do I. So it's what question do I ask at what time, not I'm going to ask this question, what the problem is. You're going to tell me, and I'm going to give you an answer, because that already hasn't worked.
Mm.
You've already done that. So if somebody comes to you in a check-in a week later and they've not done the thing that you've told them to do, using a different analogy or being a little bit firmer, it's still going to fall on deaf ears. We're wasting time by going back and forth and back and forth and just giving them different ways of doing things, because the issue isn't the thing that you've told them to do, because that would work for somebody else. The issue, like we've said, is that they're not taking ownership of doing that thing. And it's because there are so many areas of research that I kind of that I want to call upon. But my one that's really relevant into this is something called the self-endorsed goals effect. It doesn't just relate to goals. Basically, the self-endorsed goals effect, we can relate it to behaviors and actions as well. It shows us that we are it's like 30% more likely to do something that we've thought of for ourselves than something that we've been told to do. And there's three reasons why. It comes down to the power of autonomy. So feeling like we have choice. When another thing that I'm deep in a rabbit hole at the minute about is like the like neuroscience. I'm currently doing a qualification in neuro coaching, which basically looks at how the brain interplays with coaching, goal achievement, etc.
Nice.
We know from fMRI that the number one cause of stress in all living creatures is the removal of freedom, the removal of choice. That's been studied so many different times. You put an animal in a cage, it fucking hates it. How do we punish humans? We put them in like there's so many different kind of like areas in that. So the first thing that getting people involved in them deciding what they're going to do, it's the power of autonomy. It makes them realize I am in control. I have got options. I am an adult. I've got freedom to choose. And coaches talk about that a lot. It's like, I want to give my client autonomy, but you're still answering questions of if they should track their chicken like fucking cooked or raw. Like
Yeah.
it's we have to back it up, right? The second and the third points of why the self-endorsed goals effect really works is that they are alignment and clarity. So your client wouldn't choose to do something that didn't align with their current way of living. So, give you an example. You've got Sally, mum of three, single mum of three. She's got to get her kids out to work, to school in the morning. Then she's got to get to work and do all that sort of stuff. Sally's struggling to get her steps in, and you're going, "Why don't you buy a walking pad and do 5,000 steps before the day starts? Like, because that's normal for you. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" Whereas if Sally was presented options, she's most likely to pick the option that would actually work with her life, that would actually fit into that. And then the final thing is clarity. Again, people aren't picking and committing to doing something if they're not clear on what it is first and foremost, but why and the consequences of doing so. And again, another rabbit hole. I love like etymology and looking at how words are formed and stuff like that. And consequence, we think is a negative word, right? It's got negative connotations to it, but quite literally means in sequence. So you do something, a consequence is this. If I stick to my deficit, the consequence is that I lose weight, right? And we can't really take ownership of a choice until we understand the positive and the negative consequences of doing so. So if Sally decides to get up at 5 a.m. to get these steps in because Brett, the PT, told her that's what she should probably do to get them in before work, well, the positive consequence of it, she's going to get those 5,000 steps in and the day is going to be easier. The negative consequence, she's going to be fucking knackered and hate her kids by the time they get off to school, and then she's going to be dragging her ass through work all day. And it's those three things. It's the power of autonomy. It's alignment. I'm picking something that aligns with my life, and clarity on not just what it is and not just why I'm doing it, but what the back end of that is.
So a lot of kind of what you spoke about there is, well, there's a few different things. In fact, you mentioned so many different. There's so many angles we can go from there. The
I
first
can't
thing I
help it.
think
I'm
that
sorry.
was,
The way my brain works, I'm literally like bouncing.
no, it's the same as you've gone through there. I've made like 15 notes of like, right, touch on this and that. The first thing I think you'd mentioned there was the difference between like the science of coaching and the kind of art coaching. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I literally have a lesson in our like actual coaching modules, how to get results with clients. The first lesson there is called the art of coaching, because it is a massive difference. I often say this with clients, is that what's often optimal in like the paper, the research, isn't optimal in reality. Because, you know, if you put someone in a science controlled study and you track all their calories, or a metabolic ward, yeah, of course they're going to lose weight if you track every gram, every granule of rice they eat. Of course they're going to lose weight over time. You go, so if we do this, they'll lose weight. But you can't put that, and it's kind of like you gave with the example of Sally there. You can't apply that to a real human being's life in the same way. And this is often where people go down the kind of evidence-based route. I am in no way saying science is not, like, I am very much science-based, but you have to understand how science is applied to a real life human being and how they are going to carry that out. There might be the most optimal exercise or diet. Let's say today they release a study and they go, actually, there is 2 exercises you should do, and you will build all the muscle you want to do. You only have to go to the gym once a week, and you have to, do this diet. If you eat every day, you'll stick with it. It is by definition the most scientifically perfect diet ever. Everyone will enjoy it. Everyone will get on with it. Whatever. If people can't follow that through, and if they can't apply it, or they hate it, and every time they go to do it, they dread doing it, and they delay and they put it off and they don't do the session, and they go, oh, they come up with excuses. That isn't optimal for that human being.
Yeah,
That
they're not
diet
fucking
doesn't
hard.
work
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that
yeah.
human being. It's pointless. So the art of coaching is very much, you're right in that, is how do you actually apply this knowledge in a context that someone can actually do and that they can follow along with. And if you're asking your clients to do something that, yeah, okay, you are willing to do, fair enough, you're willing to get up at 5 a.m. and do, 90 minutes on the Stairmaster, they might just be like, how the fuck am I going to do that? Like, how am I I've got kids to get ready for school, I've got to do this, I've got to get the lunches packed, I've got to prep for this presentation later, and you're asking them to get up like 2 hours earlier to drive to the gym to come. Like, it's just, it is insane. And I think that whole process really does drive back down to, okay, how can we give people the tools to, I think a lot of coaching is how can we say this? Coaching is giving people the challenge and the stresses of actually finding the answers themselves a lot of the time. So
That's exactly it.
yeah,
Coaching, again, the simplest way that I try and explain it to people is if you are answering the questions, you aren't coaching.
yeah,
If you are asking the questions, you are coaching. And obviously,
yeah.
there's a little bit of leeway with that. But for the most part, if you are asking questions, empowering people to think and act for themselves, you're now coaching. That's pretty much what
Well,
it is.
if I was teaching you maths and I said 2 + 2 is 4, you'd go, okay, cool. And you understand that. I
Yeah,
go 3 + 3 is 6. You'd be like, okay, 6 + 6 is 12. You'd be like, all right. And then if I go, what's 10 + 10? If you're doing maths for the first time, you'd be like,
yeah, yeah,
it's 20. It's 20. Come on, catch up. It
yeah.
doesn't challenge people. You need to kind of almost give people like the question, go, okay, cool. Here's a question. How could we figure this out? And they go,
It's
well,
how you work. Yeah,
I could get 2 apples and 2 apples. All right, cool. So should we count them together? And it teaches people through that process. And I think the example you gave was like analogies and things. I love using analogies for this because, kind of like I said earlier, I do think there's this huge difference in coaching to get a result between giving someone information and explaining something. You could explain something perfectly, but if they don't register it and like internalize what that means,
yeah,
it doesn't play out into the real world. So you might have a client who you've explained why being in a calorie deficit is so important and why it helps them get to the goal, which could, if they understand it, help them be more adherent with it, maybe. But a lot of the time, people go, "Oh yeah, cool, I get it. I understand the words. Yeah, I'll eat less, deficit, burn off more than I eat, blah 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 blah." But they don't internalize it. Whereas if you used like an analogy, like I like to use an analogy where I used to draw out like on the iPad, I draw a line with a finish line and a start line at the beginning. I draw a pickup truck and I get like a jerry can of petrol, and I'd be like, "This is your car. If you fill it up perfectly, it will run out of gas on the finish line every day." That's like you eating the perfect amount of food, you maintain weight kind of thing. And I'd use that analogy to show like if you had a bunch of jerry cans, which symbolize your fat in the back, and we only fill it up with enough petrol to get halfway along this journey,
yeah,
your car's going to run out of gas. So we have to then get out the car, fill it up with like petrol from the jerry can, and then we can finish off. But now we're one jerry can lighter. And if you do that next day, we're another one and another one and another one. And it's kind of using things like that where you'd get, for me, that would always work. You'd kind of almost see people go like, oh, like, yeah, I get it.
yeah,
Whereas you'd explain to them what a calorie deficit was. You probably most coaches are making content about why you need to be in a calorie deficit, but people aren't like getting it. I think there's a big difference between understanding things and like getting things. And then you can kind of go, oh shit, I could do this, or I could do that thing, or I could do this. So where you're saying to a client, oh, you need to get more steps in, rather than saying to them, like you said, like get a walking pad, do it like this. The question could be, we need to, up our output. And one thing we need to do is, the steps. How do you think you could fit that into your day? Like, where are some opportunities that we could maybe get some movement in? They go, oh, actually, after
exactly that.
work, I've got this hour free. Okay, cool. Could we, X, Y, Z? Oh, have we frozen there?
There's a little bit of a delay, but I've got you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got you there.
yeah. You're all good. You're all good. No, no, I heard everything that you were saying. Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, something that you'll know for sure, and I know for sure, is it's this idea that I don't hate all business mentors. I know it might seem like I do on Instagram. I think there's some very good business mentors out there, but it's this idea of that a lot of business mentors these days are teaching you tactics and not concepts. They're teaching you something that you can do right now, but not why it works, the thinking behind it. We're not looking at things like actual marketing theory. We're not looking at psychology, good psychology of a customer, a potential customer. And it's the same sort of thing, right? Is you can teach somebody tactics on how to get your steps in, but
Mm.
unless you're actually teaching them, not just you need to get your steps in, this is exactly why you need to get your steps in. These are the different ways that we could potentially get your steps in. Here's what we could do instead of getting your steps in. It's more of a delivery thing. But you said something there about the internalizing it. And again, going back to the language thing, something that I've been reading about recently, so I might butcher this, but it's this idea that we assume that when we say something, people hear what we're saying. And what I mean by
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is what I'm actually doing is I'm saying words that mean something to me based on my upbringing and my beliefs. I'm hoping that those words mean the same thing to you and you're understanding it, and then it works the opposite way as well. Yours, a perfect example is the word love, right? Because I love my wife. I've just bought for the first time. I've been working off a laptop since I started self-employed. I've just bought a monitor, right? You're on a monitor. Like I've had it 2 days. I love this monitor. But do I love my Does that mean the same thing?
No.
Does
Yeah.
me loving this monitor that I can now see without having to squint, and me loving my wife, is it the same? So it's not only I'm hoping that these words mean the same to you, I'm hoping that the version of that word that I'm saying, you're also picking up on. And it's the same when it comes to coaching. It's the same when it comes to communicating with people in general. So many disagreements. I don't want to say arguments, but so many disagreements are just because we're not actually taking the time to understand what the other person's saying.
Yeah.
And I think so much gets lost in it.
There it is. There's I don't know if you've ever read the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and in terms of it's kind of how men and women communicate a little bit differently, and the whole sort of concept is like, it's one person might say, "Oh, you never listen to me," and you're sat there going, I'm literally listening. I've spent the last 45 minutes listening to you." But what they actually mean, deep down, what they say is, when you're not listening to me, is you're not hearing me. You're not understanding what I'm
Yeah,
saying to you. You're listening to the words, but you're not getting the context. And I think that's a good analogy for it, is that, when we're talking to people, the words that we're saying, like, it does almost get to a point of like, almost like you feel like you're being too woo woo with everything, and a bit too like, oh, be very careful about this wording.
yeah,
But it does influence everything that we do in terms of how we work with someone. So first of all, you have the context of where you're coming from. We often do this with topics that we're really versed in. We've watched, loads of stuff on, we understand really well. Someone else asks us about it, and you might explain it and you go, that was a really good explanation. They go, nah, stupid, that's
I have
dumb, or
no
whatever
idea.
it
And I'm
is.
like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you've watched hours of context of videos, podcasts, listen to people. You listen to a fucking Joe Rogan podcast, and there was that 15-minute segment where they talked about this one really niche area of it. And you're like, oh, fucking hell, that was really cool. And then you listen to Andrew Huberman on someone else talk about something else. And you're going, fucking hell, you've got 15 years of applying it. And that little Google search you did 2 years ago that changed the way you did something, but you completely forgot about. And all of that context adds together so that when you say something, you go, that made perfect sense. And then they go, I don't get it, because they don't have those tiny little building blocks that got them to it.
Yeah,
And I think that's a big part of that communication side of things. But the other side of the communication side of things is like, if you're trying to get a message across to a client, I talk a lot about like framing and like the delivery of a message. And I think one area, like, let's say something practical that a coach could use even today, would be, if I'm trying to bring up like a tough conversation with you and I want to say something to you, a lot of people haven't built that kind of soft skill of communication and really lent into it. And I mean, from everything you're saying here, I think a lot of coaching skills come from the extracurricular kind of learning about,
yeah,
words, learning about how psychology works, learning about these things, because they're actually what coaching is, in my opinion. But if I try and get something across to you and I say, well, you haven't done this and you've not done that and this isn't good and that, you straight away, what's going to happen? That client's going to get their walls up and be like, whoa, hang on a second. And there's going to be suddenly combat. Like, it's maybe not going to lead to a big argument, but they're going to be there on their defenses because you've led with like, you're doing this badly. You're not tracking this, you're not tracking that. Whereas if you went into that exact same conversation, you said the exact same things you wanted to do, but said, I've noticed that we haven't managed to get XYZ done, or we're struggling with this a little bit. What do you think we could do to blah, blah, blah? It's that one switch or word, and you're saying the same thing, but it's how you deliver it and how you frame something, which, ultimately like steers the ship in terms of how someone's going to take it. And those unique conversations, or how you word things, or how you bring things up, all of those little soft skills are the little building blocks, just like with the context of how you can talk to someone or say something to someone, which ultimately gets you in the long run to where you want to be. It's that one conversation after conversation after conversation that steers the ship.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great example. I also think if you're having a conversation with a client, this is, you mentioned something that people can do immediately. A lot of what I speak about, I get a little bit of pushback from a certain type of coaches because it's not particularly scalable.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to have the ability to have conversations with people, and I say this next bit with love, having been on the receiving end of it and realizing this myself. You can't coach somebody through a check-in feedback. Loom, voice note, it doesn't matter what it is. It needs to be dialogue. We know that coaching is rooted in dialogue, which means two people sat like me and you are having a conversation. It can be on the phone. It could kind of be through WhatsApp, but again, you're going to lose a lot of tonality. You're going to lose a lot of softer skills, body language, that side of things. So for me, it's if somebody's struggling to do something, struggling to adhere to something, and they keep struggling to adhere to the same thing, well, then stop sending them feedback and get on the phone,
Mm.
have a conversation, because you're right. Is like, if people aren't doing something, what they've not done for me isn't important. What the thing that they've not managed to stick to isn't important. I want to know why they've not managed to stick to it. I want to know what was the thing that got in the way. I want to know I want to know if I can create leverage around why them sticking to it in the future is important. I want to make sure that they know that. Then I want to come up with a different action point, but I don't want to come up with that action point. I want them to come up with that action point. So before I even talk about we could try this next, it's I've managed that we've not been I've noticed that we've not managed to stick to our steps this week, like you've just said. What part did you have to play in that?
Mm.
Like starting to get them to be open to the concept that actually it is on them, but I'm not telling them it's on them. I'm using questions, because the beautiful thing about questions and coaching is, even if you don't verbalize it, your brain cannot answer to hear a question and not answer it. If I say right now, what color is the sky? Everybody listening to this just went blue. Literally, you're
Bit
in your
grey
brain.
here, but
Well, yeah, it's Manchester's pretty shit as well. But I go, what did you have for breakfast? You just thought of you had that thought. So it's no longer me telling you what you've had for breakfast, because I've seen your MyFitnessPal diary. It's you, then me going, okay, was that the most goal aligned choice that you could make? Well, no, not really. Okay, cool. And if we continue to make choices like that, where does that lead us? So already I'm having the conversation, but I'm not actually saying anything.
it's Inception, isn't it? It's like the movie Inception. You're planting the idea so they can go, oh shit, hang on a second, and they make the realizations themselves along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, the way that my business ended up before I wrapped up Body and Brain to move into what I'm doing now and got deep in this rabbit hole, is my check-in process went from around 30 minutes per client of reading the answers to the 21 open-ended motivational interviewing questions that I got in my feedback, in their feedback form, to recording a 15-minute banger of a Loom video and realizing that nothing was changing. Right at the end, I had 7 questions. They were all data driven, and the coaching was done conversationally.
Mm.
Like everything else, it was my feedback went from 15 minutes, some clients longer, to 2 to 3 minutes. What I did with that extra time is I didn't sit, like you said earlier, on a beach drinking fucking mojitos wherever. I replaced it with actual conversation, because it's the actual conversation that is the bit that your clients need and the bit that you're currently potentially holding back from them.
I think that's also the thing that really going forwards, we spoke a bit about AI, which is going to set people aside is,
Yeah.
AI, I mean, in theory, you could set up 11 labs with a fucking chat GPT and a video, but the thing that's really going to set you aside is that human element. And people go, well, what is that human element? Is it just that a human's doing it? I think there is a value in that, but I do think the main thing is like someone can empathize with you and go, mate, that's really shit. Fuck. Like, I didn't realize that, your dad's had a XYZ issue, or your sister's going through blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I can see how that can impact you. And actually being able to empathize with them on a human level is the big part. But like you say, it's not scalable. And I think the main stuff is like, even to this day, again, very similar kind of approaches. I'll go into check-ins and look at what people are doing. And although I know it's not scalable, I'll be like, right, let's book a call in for like this afternoon and let's actually talk this through. And it isn't scalable. Actually, it takes loads of time. It's the most unscalable thing going. But I think that is the difference between, and maybe this kind of comes back to what you said about like, the whole sort of mentoring space and things like that as well. I think there's been such a drive for like tactics, strategies that you're not doing this one thing and therefore your business isn't at 50K a month kind of thing. And the reality is actually, I think you get more satisfaction out of a business. I think it's the slower route. It definitely is, but it's the better route. And you require less strategies and marketing and tactics if you go that slow route, because what it is ultimately you build a business based on results rather than a business based on okay results and an amazing tactic that really just digs deep in someone's pain points and makes them feel shit and then converts them. Actually, you know what, the results are the thing that drive people. People want the result, people want the outcome. And I think this is where coaches often get very sidetracked, or they think about things differently. You aren't selling coaching, you're not selling check-ins, you're not selling a training program, you're not selling a nutrition program, you're selling the outcome. That's what people are buying
I'm
the program
laughing because we had a conversation about this. I'm like, nobody ever woke up one morning and went, do you know what I really need? A bespoke workout plan.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I really need? A recipe, a resource area with 150
Yeah.
quick and easy to make recipes. What they went is they woke up and they went, I am sick of not being able to see my dick. Like, I'm saying that because that was it for me. Like, I was 150 kilos, bro. Like, I've been there. I struggle to tie my shoelaces. I am sick of getting out of breath, getting up the stairs. I didn't wake up and go, I'd love bespoke checking feedback
Yeah.
each week.
Well, it's like if you buy, I like the analogy I'll go if I'm trying to teach someone this is like I use this book all the time as a starting point. So it's I don't know if you read it, Richest Man in Babylon.
No,
It's
never.
like a really simple like beginner's finance. And I used to find finances and like investing and stuff really like complex for years. And I read this and I was like, holy shit, it's such a small, short read, but it basically goes through a story of the richest man in Babylon and teaches through story, the mistakes he made with investing in things he knew nothing about and he lost all the money. And like he'd spend all the money he made in 1 week without setting some aside, or all those kind of things. And I read it and I came away and I was like, oh, fuck, it all makes so much sense. Like it really makes sense. It breaks things down. But what often people are doing is they're not selling the outcome of what this book can do and how it can help you understand finances and actually, understand something from a core concept point of view and give you tactical takeaways in terms of like how you can build wealth and stuff like that. It didn't teach you that. Most people go, this book, yeah, it's got front cover, it's got back cover on it, it's got
Yeah.
pages which are pretty cool,
There's
page
numbers on the
numbers.
page. There's numbers, yeah.
Yeah, it's page numbers. The words, what you'll notice is a lot of the words are different from other ones. So this one says torment, and then the next one's us, and that's what they're doing. They're like, oh, actually got. I've counted them all. It's got 100,000 different words in it, and you're like, what the fuck are you on about? Like, that's not what people want. Yeah, it's a means to the end. Like that's how you're going to get the knowledge or the outcome or whatever it is. But people aren't buying that, and I think that's the
Yeah.
huge takeaway that I really try and promote and preach and get across to people is the second you become like that kind of obsession on results and showing off results, yeah, it's not going to happen overnight because results take time, unfortunately. But that compound effect of just like everyone who comes in gets a result, you're like, holy shit, like this is gonna work. And of course, again, like we say, there's a small percentage of people who won't get results. That's with every coaching program in the world. There's people who just don't gel. But your
Yeah,
goal really
there's
should be to
stats on
move
it.
that bell curve along so that more
Yeah,
people do get results.
absolutely. The stats on it. And again, so ICF, International Coaching Federation, arguably the top dogs in coaching as I speak about coaching, as in the professional leadership and development style
Mhm.
of these skills. A little bit dated in the way that they do a lot of things, but they're the largest governing body, one of quite a few, but the largest governing body, and they surveyed a lot of businesses that were registered, so coaching businesses that were registered and accredited by the ICF. So this is not just health and fitness coaches. This is business coaches, relationship coach, every type of coach that you can make. There's some obscure stuff out there.
Yeah.
Like my latest one, I mentioned this on a podcast that I was on yesterday as well. I have a podcast. I don't consistently put stuff out. I got targeted with an ad for a podcast coach the other day. I'm like, what? Anyway, to make the point of that, there are some coaches in obscure things.
Yeah.
They did a load of different stats. So on average, how many clients that sign up to a business should get a result? How many people should either cross-sell or upsell? How many people should refer a friend that actually becomes a paying customer? So the result one is 82%. So what they found across all of their businesses that were accredited by the ICF, so coaching businesses so obviously it'll be a little bit different for fitness. That stat will be different, but as a ballpark figure, 82% of clients should get a result from the coaching service that they signed up with. And their explanation was, well, sometimes, regardless of how good your marketing is, sometimes you're just not the right coach. Sometimes it's the wrong approach. Sometimes it's them. Sometimes their circumstances change. Sometimes a big thing, particularly in what I found, what we do that I found is a lot of people love the idea of change more than they actually like the
Change.
in the weeds, what needs to be done on the day to day in the dirt to change. So, but that I never knew that when I had my coaching business, and I used to hold myself to a high standard where I would take it personally if somebody didn't get a result, and I'd fucking hate it because I was all about reputation. Like I said, I was never been in shape. I've got screenshots of other coaches chatting shit about me, but I was churning out better results than them. I was posting more consistent results. This kid's never been in shape. Who does he think he is? He's going to end up hurting somebody. I was like, well, first of all, I'm not doing in person. I've never done any in person. But the matter of the fact is, I built my business on reputation and referral, and I used to hate it if somebody didn't get a result. If I'd have known that stat, maybe I'd have been a little bit kinder and actually realize, oh, well, if 8 out of 10 of your clients are getting a result, you're doing pretty fucking well. Like you're all good.
Yeah, I think that is the thing to really take away as well. Is like you said, like if you'll get a lot of coaches' results up. I mean, this upsets people, but they're pretty average. They're not that great. A lot of people, you look at and look, I know there's other types of kind of coaching programs that maybe aren't focused on the transformation. I get that. And the reality is what I always say is like, if you aren't coaching for a before and after, like a whoa, holy shit, this happened, right? Like they were fat and now they're shredded, whatever it is. If you're not coaching for that, then your result should be the equivalent of whatever that is in your world. So it should be the storyline transformation or the lifestyle transformation or the confidence transformation. You need to show that off in some way, shape, or form. It's not a get out of jail free card. It's just you now need to show it in another way. But I mean, the gold standard for most people is a before and after because it's immediately obvious. You look at it, oh, that's the same person's face. Holy fuck, that person's gone from clinically obese to they're on doing a photo shoot, right? And in a lot of circumstances, people aim for that. But I think there's also, this trend, which I've seen very much over the last few years. My client got absolutely dick skin lean shredded, and you look at them and it's like a spot the difference, and you're like, they're not even shredded, but there's also very minimal changes here, and that's harming your reputation as a coach more than anything else, because you're it's like being like, oh my god, this is like the fucking bee's knees of results, and it's not. It's kind of like any person, whether they know about fitness or not, could look at it and go, yeah, maybe they've lost a bit of weight. And I think that's really the be all and end all of what you do. Is like, if I went to a pizzeria and I walked in and I got a pizza and it was okay, I'm probably not going to rave about it, right? But I went to a pizzeria in Battersea in London about 3 years ago. I got a beetroot pizza. I've been making it at home because it was so good. They've taken it off the menu because it wasn't very popular. It is the best pizza I've ever had in my life at
Can I
anywhere.
just clarify what that beetroot on the pizza?
Mate, it is a sauce that, right, I'm going to give, if anyone wants to try this, we bought a pizza oven. Honestly, this is the best pizza you'll ever eat. It sounds shit. I promise you it's phenomenal.
I'm a beetroot fan, mate. I'm already
buying. I bought some sourdough stuff as well, so I can try and make a dough out of this. Anyway, shallots, peppers, beetroot, roast them up, garlic as well, chuck them in a blender, make a sauce out of that, splash of milk. It's like a thick red beetroot sauce, and then you top it with goat's cheese and some balsamic vinegar and like rock it. honestly the best PT I've eaten, and I stand by that with confidence. People think it's like,
All the coaches are listening, going, "Where's the protein?"
mate, honestly, you have to give it up for that because it's fucking phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I was a bit like beetroot, but honestly, the best. Anyway, but I've
No, I get
spoken
you, but
about that
yeah, I get the
in
point.
depth. I've told so many people about it. I bought a pizza oven so I could make it at home. Like I was so like, wow, this is amazing. But I go do that. But if I went to like the average pizzeria, I'm not going to be like, oh, go there. You have to go there. And
You're
it's
just gonna
very
have
much
the
the same.
recipe. Yeah, yeah.
Knowing that the results are the outcome, the transformation, whatever someone got from your program, that should be the thing that you're doing. Like, and I think that people don't take enough pride in that. They just kind of go, right, I get some okay results. Oh God, why is no one joining? Why is no one reaching out? It's because the outcomes aren't that great. And it's one of the simplest things you can start doing today is like aiming for better results and really taking it like personally. I used to take it when I started fitness coaching. I would like very much like say same as yourself. I took it deeply personally that someone get a result to the point where I would do hours of extra work for, trying to get them to do things or, trying to help them. There was clients who, at the beginning of my coaching would, for financial reasons have to stop. And I'd be like, fuck. And I'd be like, they're like 3 months away from getting an amazing result. And I'd coach them for 3 months for free. I'd pay for their entire photo shoot because I knew that that result and that transformation, if I could showcase it, would bring in more people. And every single time it would. And off the backbone of that compound effect of getting that result and just being like, it's all I cared about for ages. And I openly will admit, when I first started coaching back in 2018, 19, I was shit at market. I knew nothing about marketing. I knew nothing about tactics or anything. I was really bad. The content I made was awful, but I was absolutely obsessed with the result, like obsessed with it to the point of like, this is the one thing I can do really well. And I'm gonna focus on it. And I can wholeheartedly say that has been the biggest thing, the biggest lever in the business out of anything else that has moved people forwards.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. There's so many things that I want to touch. Yeah, so I think the thing that people maybe think about on the surface but don't actually realize is that regardless of what your result is, I think your before and after, whatever that is, it should be relevant to your client, what you're. I've got a lot of
Mhm.
relationship with food coaches that are working with me inside the Empire. I've got a lot of transformation coaches. Their result is very different. The before and after versus the video testimonial of, oh my God, I used to panic if somebody had a packet of crisps because I feel like I was like, whatever, right? Going out of your way to achieve that, not only do you get to spend more time doing the thing that you actually fucking love and the thing that you actually signed up versus copyrighted, which is important, content, which is important, having conversations, which is important. It makes that side of things easier.
Mhm.
Like if you can display, when you look at customer psychology, biopsychology, there's something that people look for called predictability. And what that means is they want to know that the result that you're displaying is predictable for them. That because you've got this many results with this many people, that they can see themselves achieving that result. It's not about the after in the before and after. It's about the before in the before and after. It's that they can look at that person and go, they're similar to me. This coach has got 100 results, 200 results. It's highly likely that they're going to have the skill set needed to get me from A to B. And I can see that predictability is there for me. But I think I think one of the things that it comes down to is that those results don't take 12 weeks. Those results don't take
Yeah.
4 months. You sell your 4 month package, cool. Those results take 18 months. Those
Mhm.
results take 15 months. So depending on the starting point, depending on the end point, depending on the journey, adherence, all that sort of stuff. But yes, it's the result. But I think the first thing that coaches need to be focusing on is what is my average retention? Like, how long does somebody stick around? Because if it's 7 months and I was awful at tracking data for my business, leads could not tell you, not a fucking clue, just genuinely did not know. But I knew everything about my clients. I've got a client dashboard that I give away to the coaches inside the Amplifier. I knew that the average starting weight of one of my clients at Body and Brain was 132 kilos. That's the average, right? So would I be doing what's right by potential clients by going sign up for this 4 month package and
Yeah, yeah.
no? What I would be doing before they even paid me is I'd like a 6 month minimum commitment because that's what I've found that it really takes a decent amount of time for us to start to see some long term behavior change. However, Gary, a client of mine that I absolutely fucking loved, this is probably going to take you maybe 18 months, maybe a little bit longer. But here's all of the results that I've got with people that have been with me 18 months. This is Sophie. She's still a client now. You'll meet her when you get in the business. And it's making it real for them. And I think a lot of the times coaches are scared to tell people how long it's going to take. But by you selling a 4-month package, what a lot of coaches don't realize, again, rant about business mentors. You're told to sell a 4-month package because you can charge up front. You're told to charge up front, and you're told that customers buy in more if they charge up front. I don't believe that. You're told to charge up front so your business mentor can post a screenshot of how much you made each month. Their social proof is you. So are they telling you to charge for a 4-month package at $997 or whatever it is these days because it's right for the client? No, they're telling you to do that because it's right for you. But by you selling a 4-month package, you are pre-programming that client to think, I'm done in 4 months.
It's a 4-month package, and
I'm done in 4 months. And one of two things happens. They stick to everything that you tell them to do for 4 months, and they make a load of progress, and they go, cheers for that last 4 months. I can do it on my own now. Or they don't, and they don't stay anyway because they've not got the result that they thought they would in 4 months. And it's this idea of like a lot of retention. I think there's so many different factors in it. A lot of it for me comes down to expectation management on the way in, of being honest with people, actually letting people know what it is going to take. And I think coaches don't like to do that because they feel like they might lose clients.
Yeah.
They feel like if I say to you, you've got 150 kilos of weight to lose, mate, and it's going to suck for a few months before we get into the swing of things. Oh, well, that client will go somewhere else. Well, if that's the case, they might have been a fucking nightmare when they got in the service anyway.
Yeah. There's the headache you pay for as well in like trying to trick the system a little bit. And I agree. I think I don't see I think you need, for like marketing, I think it does help in some sense to have like, hey, look, this is our base length of the program. But what I often say is like, anytime a client goes, oh, all my clients are always leaving at month 3, and I'm like, are you telling them that this is a 90-day program and they're in and out, or are you on the call mapping out, okay, so there is a minimum commitment of this because we want to make sure that you're not coming in and just thinking that this is going to happen overnight. But realistically, you're probably going to be here at this point, and then in 6 months, we're going to be here. We're going to be here at this stage, that kind of thing. And it's that future pacing which actually creates a lot of the adherence within any program and the retention with any program. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I was just going to add on to that, but I think that's where people struggle, is because they haven't managed to keep clients for that long yet. They don't have the wealth of knowledge. They don't have the evidence to actually be able to say to people, yeah, this is where you're going to be. We're going to roadmap this out. It's because, again, multiple reasons why this could be happening. But for me, it's the result, but focus on the retention, not the result. Because if you keep people long enough, as a byproduct, the results will come.
Yeah. Because people won't stay if they're not seeing progress anyway. So it's like, it's double-edged sword with a lot of that stuff. There's we haven't taken on a fitness client now for years, but from the last intakes we have taken on, we've got a client who's there's like 4 of them left, and they're still with us, and they've been with us for years and years and years. And every single one of them has achieved the goal they wanted to achieve, and they've either said, hey, I just want to keep going, and we set a new goal, and I'm really happy to do that, and we kind of move forwards. A couple of them have said, hey, I've got everything I want. And to be honest, every single one of them could manage themselves now. I'm really happy. If they said, we're going, I'd be like, great. I've done everything I can do here. But a lot of them just now want the kind of guidance and the goal setting and stuff like that. So within what we're doing now, a lot of my job has now become like that journey, because if they suddenly see me as like, oh, I've kind of got everything, there's nothing I'm getting, I'm literally just doing a check-in and that's it. If there's no journey going forwards or that future where they're aiming for, there's nothing they can achieve. So one of them we've got has just said, we had a conversation today, goal setting. I said, like, what are we aiming towards here? Because we kind of like, we've achieved this last goal. We're now just in this no man's land. Like, otherwise, I'm just literally just checking in with you and just saying, cool, you hit your calories, you didn't, that kind of thing. There's no progress.
Speak to you next week. Yeah.
So the conversation we had was very much like you said, like that, what were you saying before? Self-endorse goals effect. So like, what do you want to aim towards? And the goal that we'd come up with at the end of that, and he was saying to sort of aim towards, was like, I'd like to do another photo shoot. This guy's a guy who, is your typical kind of, struggles to put muscle on, not a huge guy. It's just someone who, it takes a little bit longer for him, and we have to kind of go through that process. But he's signed up, or we've committed to a goal of a photo shoot in 2027, which is over a year away. That's insane for a lot of people. A lot of people would love to have a client stay on for a year, would be amazing for most people. But the process there I'm not using isn't magic. It's not because I'm some magical coach. This guy could manage his own fitness now going forwards. All he wants now is more accountability, course correction, maybe some minute tweaks and things like that. And we've adjusted the program to it. He's not paying like the full coaching program anymore. But as a result of that sort of future pacing and goal setting and helping him decide what he wants to do and being really realistic about it, I said, for you to get to that next shoot and have a better result than this one, we need to spend longer than we have done in a growing phase. We need to really commit to this for like, 6, 7, 8 months, like really go for like actually putting on some weight and, committing to that process. But I think a lot of people are looking for those shortcuts, and it happens with business mentoring, it happens with fitness coaching, it happens with everything across the spectrum, is that there is this like, you'll get this result in this, it'll happen really, really, really quickly. I mean, it probably happens as a result of like, Alex Hormozy's book on like, how can you make the time frame as short as possible?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
there's this
$100 million.
competition.
Yeah,
It's all of that stuff, right? Like if you're competing against other people, you're like, well, what if I can do it in half the time? But actually, I think there's only so quick that you can lose weight. There's only so quick that you can grow a business, because there's only so quick you can make your coaching program better, because there's the time delay of actually applying it and learning it and getting the feedback and going, oh, that didn't quite work. What do I need to do here? What do we change there?
we're fighting against this thing called biology.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And there is just a time on stuff. And I think that's very realistic. I think for everything we've spoken about here, there is a kind of common theme coming back to where coaches should be focusing their attention. Results seems to be a huge one. I saw a post you put up the other day actually about a certain person posting about like you need better content and marketing and this and that. And actually it was about you need better results. And I'm fully, from a lot of the stuff I see you post, I'm very much like, I'm fucking 100% in agreement with a lot of this. I think that this is the biggest curse of the industry at the moment. And again, I'm very much in favor of actually things that aren't as scalable, because I think they get a better result. And I think they make you as a person feel way more aligned and like driven by what you do. You get so much more satisfaction out of your job. Like you really want to do what you do.
yeah,
And a lot of that comes down to focusing on coaching skills and the result that you're getting, and actually all of that other stuff, all the tactics, the strategies, the way you market it, all of that comes 10 times easier and 10 times faster, because you did focus on that, like the slow work at the beginning.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I have nothing to expand on that. I completely agree, and I do see why it is like that these days. I still think most coaches are in it for the right reasons, but I do think because of a lot of the messaging around online coaching, I do think that there are maybe some people that are here for a quick quid.
Yeah.
It's just like how much money, how quickly can I get to 3 grand? How quickly can I get to 5, 10, whatever? But I think it's difficult. Well, you must experience this when you're trying to communicate with somebody and they're like, well, I'm barely paying my bills. And what my message is, well, suck it up for another 6 months and get really good
Yeah.
at the job.
It is shitty, because people want the quick fix, but actually the quick fix is the long fix.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's the shitty thing, is you like people are like, but what should I do? And there's this kind of desire of like 5K or 10K a month. To get to 10K a month, but I don't think people understand, you are out earning someone who went to medical school for like 7 years, went like sleepless nights, and you literally, and I mean, look, there's this dream of like laptop lifestyle, but you can live a laptop lifestyle. It's stressful and the time zones are crazy and there's a reality to it, but feasibly you could live. We've got a client who moved to Bali, like just was like, cool, I'm going, and that's it. Runs his coaching business from there, lives the dream that he wants to live. But I think there is the reality that you have to understand, to make 5K a month, 10K a month, it's a fucking good income. That's a fucking good income. And you have to earn the right to be able to do that. And the quickest fix is getting really good at all the little things, because, to grow that business, and it's something I learned, I really fought this for years, and it like within a 6 month window turned around for me, when I kind of took that ego out of it and was like, oh, fuck, I've been holding myself back in a lot of these areas. But it was learning that a lot of the stuff that I need to get better at it is this coaching skills and the soft skills, but even within like marketing, copywriting, all those sort of things, is to earn those kind of like higher brackets and go up and up and up, you have to have the skills of someone who can make 3K a month and then 5K a month and then 10K a month. Like you have to have that skill set. And if you don't have that skill set, you can't move into that bracket because you can't apply the things that you need to apply. If you can't put together a lead magnet or a landing page or like an email funnel or do your email marketing, you don't have the skills to move beyond it. And look, there's people who are lucky, but it does really, what's holding you back is that kind of acquisition of skills and sort of self-investment in a lot of areas, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know that, especially if you listen to me speak on, if you ever see me do a public speaking or anything like that, it almost might sound like I don't think you need to do this. That's not what I'm saying. You absolutely need to get good at marketing, not the tactics that you're being taught, but the idea, the concept, the theories behind marketing, behind taking somebody, a potential customer, and turning them into a customer and then keeping them. You do need to level up all of those other skills, email marketing, whether you are running webinars, whatever your approach is, you do need to get better at those things as well. I think the thing that I always come back to though is that, again, asking a question, anybody that's listening to this or listening to this now, watching this now, is it video going on? I'm not video going.
Yeah, there's video.
Yeah. So watching or listening to this now, if you take yourself back to when do you know what? I'd really love to give this coaching thing a go. Is the idea that you had for that business then to be a sales funnel, to be the best marketer, the best copywriter, the best whatever content creator, have the best hooks, find the biggest fake lump of fat that you can on Amazon to wave around in? Or was it to be the best coach that you can be? Because my messaging isn't that you don't need those other things, because you do, but focusing on the thing that you signed up for in the first place, to be the best coach possible, it makes all of that much easier, like we've covered.
You can't sugarcoat shit kind of thing. Like you can market it, but if it's not good, you're going to struggle. You can get people in, but if you've got a product that is an amazing result and it happens consistently all the time, the marketing does a lot of itself because people hear about it and there's the word of mouth and referrals and all that. Like, a lot of my coaching successes that I've seen and growth has actually come off of those sort of things: word of mouth, referrals, people coming in. Oh, I just saw you worked with blah blah blah. And I think that's a really good indication for a lot of people is if you can get that to work, the marketing becomes a breeze afterwards, because it's just like on rocket boosters. You're just adding, steroids to something that's already working for you. The strategies and all the tactics and things, you're right, they are 100% real. And, I think there is also, maybe a separate topic for a different podcast, but there is this reality that I think a lot of people have very unrealistic views of running a coaching business. And, like they join a course or they do a certain tactic or they do a certain thing and they're like, oh, it didn't work. And it's like, no, you have the responsibility to make this thing work. Like you can't just pay the fee and then be like, oh, cool, like now it's going to work on its own. But it all happens off the back of results. Like everything comes off the back of results.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah. Cool. I think that's a good little ending point for that today. The one question I like to ask everyone who comes on the podcast to kind of round up what we can do, and again, kind of make it actionable, something that someone can walk away from today and go, I'm going to do this. If you could have someone who's just listened to this whole conversation who's going, yeah, I want to like improve the business, the results, the adherence I get with clients. What's one thing that they can actionably do today? They can step away and go, I'm going to do this now and see a result off the back of it.
If you've got a client that is currently, everybody's got a client that's currently struggling with something that maybe has popped up in check-ins this week or something like that, it's a conversation that you are having with them, it's ongoing. Just, I know it does sound simpler than it is. Stop telling them what to do and just start asking them questions. Again, if I was giving you what I think is the gold standard, is find 15 minutes. It doesn't need to be longer than 15 minutes. Jump on a Zoom with them. Don't spend time talking about what they're watching on Netflix. Don't spend time talking about what they've not done. Figure out why they've not done it. And that's where it'll come from, because by figuring out why they've not done it, the potential strategies to move forwards will start to uncover themselves anyway. From that point, the second part of it is get them to tell you what they're going to do. Don't you tell them. You are better off holding somebody accountable for something that they've thought of, even if it will only get them 50% of the way there. You're better off doing that than you telling them the thing that will get them 100% of the way there and them not doing it.
Yeah.
So if you've got somebody that's struggling, get on Zoom, get on a phone call with them, Figure out why it's not why it didn't work. Why weren't not why it didn't work, but why weren't they able to stick to it? That's the important part because they have to take responsibility for it, and then move forward from there. And I know that might be people might be listening to that to me and being like that. Well, that sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but it'll have the result that you want. Trust me.
It also it sounds, I know some people take this as like it's almost like you're not doing your job, like you're being lazy. You're like, oh, so they tell me what they need to do. That's not coaching.
Yeah,
That is actually the best way to get to the result is
yeah.
what do you think we could do? And then they go, oh, well, I could get up a bit earlier for before work and do it. And you're like, fucking hell, hang on a second. Here's the solution.
Mo-
Like that's the thing
yeah.
we need to do.
And most people and everybody listening to this now, you'll have heard this. I hear this still. People have said to you, "I know what to do. I'm just not doing it." And as soon as somebody says something that even sounds slightly like that, well, then they don't need more information, do they?
No.
If they already know what to do, they don't need you to tell them what to do in a different way. They get it. It's the next bit is how can I actually get this to work?
Yeah, perfect. Well, Lewis, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for jumping on today. If anyone wants to find you, what's your handle on Instagram?
I am Lewis Potts official, and it's not because I think I'm some sort of fucking big time. It's because there's already a Lewis Potts out there. So that's a video.
Same fucking thing, right? And he's got a
Yeah.
photo of Jar Jar Binks and he's not using the account. He is not posting. I can't get the fucking handle and I want it, but it's anyway.
Oh mate, mine's a videographer and he's sick. Like a lot of his work, I think he's based in America somewhere. Like a lot of his work is really cool. So there's no way I'm getting it. But yeah, Lewis Potts official on Instagram.
Perfect.
That's pretty much the only place. Mate, I've genuinely really enjoyed this conversation. It's been
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you showing up. And if I can do anything or jump on any other podcast for yourself, I'm more than happy to. But for everyone else who's been listening today, if you do have any questions, I'm sure Lewis would be more than happy to answer some for you. If you want to ask me anything that I've spoken about as well, feel free to reach out to me at Jack Simons Official as well. And yeah, really, really good conversation. I think, those kind of core skills are things that I've been preaching for so long. So it's really refreshing when I do see other people. And like I said to you, you're one of the people I've really wanted to speak to on the podcast because I think you can provide some good value and you're not in it to, churn a quick buck and just like take people's cash. You genuinely care about the results and the outputs, which is what I'm all about. So thank you very much for today. For everyone listening, thank you very much for listening. As I always say, if you know another coach who could benefit from this, if you know someone who maybe is struggling with results or adherence, share this. This is how we can, get more amazing guests on and give you guys more incredible free value from what we do. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you all on the next episode. Cheers.